Good morning and welcome back to the Adventures of Mac and Anthea. And in today's video we're going to be switching out the entire gear set on this Rockrider ST530 bicycle. Okay, so let me introduce you to Pebbles. She was originally going to be called Rocky, but being only a small frame bike, we thought it was just a bit too much name for her to live up to. So like I said, Pebbles is a Rockrider ST530 bicycle from Decathlon. Now personally, I'm a really big fan of Decathlon bikes. I think they find a good balance between quality and price. There's something there for everyone, and they have an absolutely huge, almost mind-boggling range of bicycles to suit everybody's needs. Now, as far as I'm aware, almost no matter what bicycle you buy from Decathlon, nearly all of them, if not all of them, come with a lifetime guarantee on the frame, the seat stem and the handlebars. Now, to me, you know, that demonstrates, you know, a sort of confidence in the product they're selling to be able to give you that guarantee. And also, I believe a good thing about this is no matter which bike you buy from, the bare bones of the bicycle is going to be strong and in theory should last a lifetime. So why do I consider this a good thing? Well, to my mind, you know, if you're having your first introduction to bicycles and you don't really know, whether you like it or not, you can buy, you know, sort of an entry-level bicycle, and if after 6 months you'll find it's spending more time gathering dust at the end of the garage and you're actually using it, it's not the end of the world. Now, on the other hand, if you do find you're using it a lot, you've got a good basis to build off of. You know, you can start switching out parts for better quality parts, or as parts wear out, you can switch out for better quality parts. And that's basically what we're on with today. So we've just recently got back after a month trip to the Asturias in northern Spain. If you're familiar with northern Spain, you've got a pretty good idea of the terrain and what we've been putting these poor bicycles through. We took 3 bikes up there, and you know, it's like that, and it's rocky, heavy terrain. It's not like we, you know, going on bicycle paths through Holland. And of course that does take its toll on bicycles, and it's now time for all 3 bicycles to be thoroughly checked over and serviced, and of course great time to introduce any upgrades we need to do. So on Pebbles being sort of on the budget side of things, you know, she's got sort of a generic gear shifter and derailleur here, and as such, you know, it's a bit clunky, you know. It works fine, don't get me wrong, and she's nearly 3 years old now, so now she's starting to falter, but for 3 years these gears have been pretty okay. Slightly clunky, not quite as good obviously than the better quality ones, you know, like Shimano and that, but it's functional. But now they're starting to clunk. We're getting a little bit of sort of gear crunching and that on here, no matter how much I sort of try and adjust them backs and forwards, you know, especially on the sort of the lower gears, you know, the bigger cogs. It's struggling to go on there, and as such, Anthea's not really using the bike as much as I would like her to the full range of the gears. She's sort of going up hills in sort of a higher gear than she really should be, and she's a bit nervous about, you know, changing up because of all the crunching. It doesn't really make a huge difference because, you know, it's been converted to an e-bike and it's quite a powerful e-bike, so it will get up there. But obviously if she could use the lower gears onto the bigger cogs, we're going to get a lot greater range out of the battery. So as such, it's time for a change. I had a search around. This is a 9-speed bike, and I thought, well, I'll update to Shimano. I've got Shimano Deore on my sort of 90s retro touring bike. And they've worked faultless. They've been there over 3 years and they're as good as the day I fit them. So I thought that would be a good choice for this bike, you know, tried and tested. But they don't do a great deal for 9-speed. So I was a bit stuck. And what they did, you know, if I did find anything, it was quite expensive. So then I did a bit more research to see actually whether a 10-speed cassette would fit on the rear of this bike. And apparently, we're about to find out, a 10-speed will fit on a 9-speed wheel. And so hopefully that information is correct and we're not going to have problems fitting this 10-speed today. So this is a Shimano Deore group set. This came in from AliExpress at $69.75 including free shipping. So not an overly expensive modification for a bicycle, considering it, you know, includes all 4 components. Obviously we've got the shifter, I've got the one with the window to make things just a little bit easier, derailleur, 10-speed cassette and chain. So we're going with Shimano Deore. Like I said before, we've got previous experience of it and found it to be a good component. If I understand it correct, it's sort of entry level to the pro section of the Shimano group set. So more than up to the job for us. On a separate note, just thought I'd show you this, you know, it shocked me. This is the 10-speed, exactly the same make and model, but an 11-speed. It's almost twice the size, and this is going to be what I'm going to use on my other bicycle, Dangerous Brian, which is for the more technical trails, and this is going to form part of an upgrade as well as 20cm brakes. So another video there, if you hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss that, and that'll be coming up in the future. So I think that's enough chit chat. I think you know all you need to know, so let's get on with taking this bike apart. I'm going to start with taking the rear wheel out, fit this cassette, because obviously if this 10-speed cassette doesn't fit to this 9-speed wheel, there's little point in continuing on with the conversion. So first off, we're going to take the rear wheel off. Pretty easy on this, it's just release at the back here, it's a quick release system. Unscrew and slide out. So made a little bit harder by this derailleur guard, but a well worthwhile accessory. So, axle out. Means the derailleur guard off, which has replaced the nut that would normally be on there. Careful with the little spring. Take it off. Little spring back on so I don't get lost. And that back on there. All together so we don't lose any other parts. Okay, face down. And then it's time for a special tool. Quick clean up. Hopefully we've got the right tool. It's not the sort of thing we use every day. Okay, so we've got the wrong tool. This one's not compatible. This one I found is this one works. So we got there in the end. Like I say, it's not the sort of thing you do every day, swapping these rear cassettes. But that one fits perfectly, so we can get moved on to the next stage. Okay, so we've got another special tool that no doubt has another special name here. This actually came with the e-bike kit, but hopefully that'll hold it good enough. I've done it in the past with a rag, but there we go, and we're off. Turn this fan, there's a particular way to go on, and one of these teeth is smaller, the other ones are larger, and you've got to make that up with the smaller tooth on the cassette. And there you go, we're on. So then we've got this other little one. We need to line up the small one again, small notch again there, and this bit here needs to be pointing down. And finally we've got this bun here, and again the collar needs to be pointing down. Brand new nut. And we tweak it up. I'm sure there's meant to be a setting for this, torque setting, but I'm just going to do it to a sensible, I consider to be a sensible tension, which that is. Okay, so that's that one done. Fairly easy, fairly simple to put together. And it does answer the question, will a 10-speed fit a 9-speed wheel? Well, the answer to that is yes, it will. Yeah, that fits perfectly. So I'm going to get on and do some other bits and pieces. I need to put this on the alignment tool to make sure that the actual rim's still in alignment once I've got this wheel off. I'm going to check the individual spoke tensions as well whilst we've got the wheel off. But that isn't what this video is about, so I'll get on with that and then I'll bring you back in when it comes to refitting this wheel. Okay, so that's the wheel checked and the spokes checked. They're all within tolerances. So now it's time, I think, to change this derailleur whilst we've got the wheel off and out the way. So I'm going to loosen the cable. I think I'm going to take this bolt all the way out so I don't have to take this end off. That's that one off. And removed here. You have to case them from the back of here. Okay, that's not going to go through, so we are going to have to take that off after all. Okay, and hopefully then this derailleur off. There we go, I'm just going to let that drop out the way over there. So I think I'm going to give this a good clean up. I'm going to go and get the thread lock for this, for the thread to go in here, and then we'll put the new derailleur on. Okay, and now it's time to get the rear wheel back in, which should be considerably easier. Now we haven't got the chain in the way, he says. Okay, make sure we get the disc in between the pads. Okay, and I'm just going to put that loosely in for now. I always like to put the bike on the ground, have the weight of the bike on top of the wheel before I finally tighten this up, so that I'm sure it's actually set right up into the housing of the frame there. Okay, so that's tight enough for it doesn't fall out, but you know, good enough for me to work on for now. Okay, so I've given this front cog a really good clean, got all the old oil off it and crud and the dust that's basically stuck to it, so that's well clean now. So we've got clean cog, new chain, new cassette. Let's take that round to there. I'm going to drop this on the lowest gear, smallest cog. Then I'm going to feed chain through the top, over, back through, back under here, there we go, and then back up to the main sprocket. Okay, so I think that's going to be it for today. If you follow the channel, you'll know I'm always fighting with the sun to try and, you know, keep in the shade until it eventually gets too far out and I can no longer work in it. And that's at the stage we're at today. So anyway, we're all on. We've got the chain on. Obviously, it's too slack, so we have to take some links out of that. I'll show you how to do that tomorrow. But the derailleur's on, the cassette's on. We've just got to be a first job tomorrow is get the actual selector on, the new selector on there, which means taking all this off. And then we'll be ready to adjust everything up. Good morning and welcome back. It's the next day and we've got the shade back again. So whilst we've got the shade here, let's see if we can get this bit of a job completed. So whilst the bike is down off the actual maintenance stand, I've took the opportunity to upright the bike, loosen the rear axle and rock the bike backs and forwards to make sure that the wheels properly seated up into the bicycle frame. From there then I'll retighten the axle and we're basically ready to go there. So on top of that, being as we've got the bicycle off the stand, we're also going to address the selectors here. Get all the end of this off. Unfortunately, we've got these to take off, the handlebar grip to take off, and also the brake lever, so that we can refit the new selector. Okay, so we're all ready to change this switching gear. Apologies to you guys there if it looks like I'm working a bit keck-handed here, but the best position for me to work on the bike is also the best position for the tripod to be and for me to film. So yeah, it's going to look like I'm working a bit keck-handed here, but it's all for a reason. Hate those old type grips. Okay, and we're off. Okay, so now we've got the shifter off. I'm just going to pull the inner cable completely out. There we go. And then remove this little piece of cable from here. The new one comes with the new cable fitted, so we don't need to worry about this cable at all. So with this our new selector, as I said, it's come with a new cable. I suspect it's probably going to be way too long, and it's got some sort of soldering on the end here to hold all the ends of the cable together, so that's well handy. You know, we often have problems with that splaying out and having to twist it back in again before you can thread it through, or spin it while you're turning it through the outer cable. So hopefully we're not going to have that problem there today. So another thing I use on all my bikes are these adjusters. Now, someone has commented in the comments in the past that these are actually made for brakes, you know, to go on the brake lines, because brake lines are a bit thicker. And it is true to say that these don't fit snugly into there, you know, there's a little bit of play. But if you put them on the straight section of cable, and whilst that cable's under tension, they stay in there and they work perfectly well. Now for me, I believe these are invaluable if you go out in the middle of nowhere a lot on trails. There's nothing worse than you know, sort of your derailleur getting out of sync for whatever reason. I mean, it could be the cable stretch, which may be a thing with this, with the new cable. It can be sometimes that you've got something different on your handlebars and they're binding on this cable. With this, you could do some quick fine adjustments while you're out on the trail, very quickly, very easily, and stop all that clacking and crunching coming from the cassette at the back there, because of these various different reasons. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of fitting these for the €1 something they cost, you know, to put them in. It's well worthwhile. Anyway, on to fitting this selector. Okay, so I've got all that unravelled, and really it's just a case of pushing this back through in reverse. So we're through our first section here. Yeah, this is very long, this cable. I'm just going to momentarily sort of like slot that on the end there, whilst I'll thread this back through this other cable down here. It's through my adjuster, and hopefully this is just going to feed down for the outer cable. And it's basically a case of feeding it all the way back, its original course, back to the rear derailleur. Okay, so we quickly just got that back together more or less without incident. Just had Anthea come out and sit on a bike and make sure everything's all lined up where she likes it. And apart from the fact we're having to move the front throttle away a bit further because of the window here on the selector, everything's more or less as how it was before. Things do tend to get a bit cluttered on the old handlebars, you know, with bells and God knows what else, when you've actually got the e-bike conversion on there as well. But hey ho, you know, there's not going to be much we can do about that. So now I think it's time to get it back up on the workshop stand and address an issue which actually I'd forgotten about on past bikes, which is going to be an issue on this one. Okay, so the little problem we've got now, not too bad, but I mean, it's a bit of a pain. No, if you've got your derailleur cable comes down here, it's perfect for e-bikes because you get the actual gear change sensor fits perfectly into here, and you haven't got this problem I'm about to show you now. On this model, it goes down here behind the motor, and it's a real pig to get normally to get it behind the motor there and actually through the guide. Let me try and get around and show you that. Yeah, and sort of through this guide here, it's a real pig to get it routed through there properly. So yeah, I'm going to have a go at that. I'm afraid that's going to be off camera because it's a lot fiddly. I know where I'm going to get a camera in there and see if I get that threaded through so we can move on to the final stages. So after a bit of messing, we managed to get that cable sort of through here, down and through, across, up into here, went easily through the gear change sensor, which can sometimes be a bit of an arse. But now we've got a problem here, this little bit of outer cable isn't long enough. We've got to go sort of round into here. So I'm going to go and source in the workshop, so hopefully we've got a bit of a cable kicking around, otherwise we'll not be able to complete this job today. So no black, unfortunately. It's Friday today, so I'll have to order some more. We normally go biking on Sunday, so we need something just to tide us over the weekend. So a little bit of white is what it's going to have to be. So I've cut that to size. I haven't been too particular about it because we've got new black coming, and I've just threaded the cable through there. So I'll just take any slack out of that, make sure it's at its lowest gear on the selector, and I'm just going to temporarily tweak that up for now. Okay, so that's that done. I've left the cable along for the time being until I'm 100% sure that's right. And now we're on to the rather controversial subject at times of chain sizing. Now, there's a guy who I watch a video on. I actually keep it in a playlist for reference videos for me. He does a particularly good video, straight to the point. He covers all the different types of chain setups because they vary depending on whether it's full suspension, you know, fixed end, single chain ring at the front. They all vary how you size the chain. So what I'll do, he'll do a far better job than I'll ever be able to do of, you know, telling you how to do that. So I'll link that into the description below. So now, based on his instructions, I'm now going to size this chain. So we've got the chain round to about 5 o'clock here, and we've actually just slipped in half of, because this is a split link, you know, type chain. We've put half the split link into there. We've run it round the largest cog, bypass the derailleur, and we're going to pull this now back to the chain ring here. Okay, so what we've done is we've got this here, we've pulled the chain, it won't quite go tight, so I've got to go back one here like this. And because if we remove this one here, this split pin will go straight, this split link will go straight through, that's okay. If it was on here, we would have to go back one, but it isn't, so we're not going to worry about that. And then from there, because it's a single front chain link, we've got to measure 4 rivets. So that's our base rivet, 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be number 4 there. So we mark that. And then I should just offer that up and check again. There we go. So that's the base link. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that should be right. And now with this lined up on the link splitter, I'm now going to push that out and split the link. There we go. And that's it. Okay, so I've got to say I'm not terribly impressed with that after now when I've done and used that method, that system. That's very slack. I think I'm going to try and adjust it out with this screw here, because up here this will adjust it backwards and pull the derailleur back slightly and see if that helps. Or if not, I'm going to have to use my old tried and tested method where all I do is I put it on the front cog, the smallest cog here, on the front cog here, and then I just pull the chain until it's pulling on the derailleur slightly and then cut it at that. That's how I've always done it in the past. But we'll give it a chance and we'll try and adjust this slack out first. Okay, so that seems a lot better. It has taken some of the slack out though, even probably still a bit too floppy there. But I think what I'm going to do is we'll go through the gears, get it up onto the largest cog at the back there, and then see how much spring we've got left in the derailleur. Good morning and welcome back. It's about a week and a half since you saw that last footage. We had problems. I had to order new parts which just arrived in the past few days. So I just want to quickly show you a mistake I made before we go any further with this video. When I fitted this derailleur, I put this this bar here down at 6 o'clock, and it's sort of there's a notch on the back of this bar here and a notch on the derailleur hanger here, and they're meant to sort of lock against each other. I put this bar to the right of it, and it has to go to the left of it. I'll try and give you a shot in a minute from behind, but it's hard to see. So it really wants to be this bar here from this to here, wants to be sort of between 9 and 10 o'clock. So that's the first thing. I adjusted that, and then I managed to get a decent tension on the chain using that method I showed you. Now just try and quickly look round to the back, but I don't think you're going to see it. It's sort of this notch here, and there's a notch on the derailleur. Okay, so the problem we had, we adjusted all the gears up and everything, got it running, and we were going up through the gears, but we got to sort of the second largest cog, second gear, and then when we went up onto first gear, it was coming off the front cog here. So obviously the chain was sort of going too far over that way, and it was just derailing it basically off the front cog here. Now I think it's worthy of note here that if you've got a standard bicycle and you haven't converted to an e-bike like I have with this one, you wouldn't have this problem, because the standard cog I think is a 32, and because you haven't got sort of all this gubbins here from the motor and everything, standard form, it's a lot closer and in this way. So if you wanted to just do the 10-speed conversion, the Deore conversion, you wouldn't have the problem I'm having now. But anyway, I've come up with a solution for this. In a minute, I'll quickly just show you how this sort of derails, and then we'll get on with fitting this new solution to this bike. Okay, so I've got the camera set up here. Hopefully you're going to be able to see this. I've already put the chain up onto sort of fourth gear, I think it is. No, fifth gear in the centre there, and I'll start moving it up from there. So if you keep an eye on there and the front chain ring here, you'll see what I mean. So we're going up a gear, we're now in third, and now we're in second largest cog, and you can see that's fine. But if you watch this front cog now, as I change up to the last gear, oh, well, that's typical, isn't it? It's not going to do it for me now. But take my word for it, it's really pushing on here, and it takes very little movement. There you go, it's just done it there, look. It's just come off there now. Okay, so hopefully this is our solution. A difficult animal to find, this one, this small. There's plenty of front chain rings from 42 tooth upwards, which have got a good amount of dish, a good amount of offset on them. They go up to sort of just under 15mm. But unfortunately, once you get smaller, the offset is a lot harder to get hold of, and this one is 7mm. And when I say 7mm, that means when you put a straight edge, say a steel ruler along the top here, and lay this on a flat surface, if you measure from the steel ruler sort of here down to the surface, that's 7mm, not from the steel ruler to the centre of the tooth, which would be a bit more accurate and give you a bit more idea about how that's how they do it. So this is 2 teeth smaller. The old one is 40. This is 38, so that should make it a bit easier, you know, when you've got the chain running along, it's not running such a large area across the top here, you know, so it's more likely to want to go over to the larger cog, if that makes any sense. So that should help a bit. And then also with the sort of 7mm more in, that should help it from falling off, because as you saw, it's only just falling off, so that should make the difference. So I'm going to get some tools together, get this pedal off. We've got the pedal off, pedal shaft off, the old front chainring off, and we'll try this one on. Okay, so we're going to start by loosening off this Allen bolt in the centre here. Job I normally like to do on the ground or up on a bench, so that I can sort of jam the other pedal up on the other side under a block to stop this from turning, but we're getting away with it today. So that's that off. And now we're going to use a pedal shaft extractor. Always say to you guys, but I'm going to repeat it again, always wind this right back out as far as it will go before you start screwing this part into the pedal shaft. The reason for that is this: you want to get this well into the pedal shaft. If you don't, you run the risk of tearing the threads out of the pedal shaft. So that's all the way out. Screw that in as far as it will go. It's pretty much that. And then tighten the centre in, and then that should push the bar through and pull this shaft out. Oh, often a bit tight, and this is where it's good to have it up on a bench so you can push down better. Oh, yes, this is fighting me. Yeah, and I think we're going to have this down on the ground to do it. So I'll get down the ground, I'll loosen it off, I won't film that, and we'll get it back up here. Okay, so that's that pedal off and back on the rack. So let's undo these bolts. Okay, I'm holding the opposite pedal here. Stop it from just spinning. Loosen them all off gradually, diagonally. And then just wind them all out. I'll bring you back in when I've got these all out. Okay, so they're all out. I'm going to lift this cog off. We're quite oily because I did oil it all up and everything, and we have been out this weekend despite, you know, not being able to use the lowest gear. If you're in that situation, you're waiting for parts, you've always got the option of adjusting the derailleur here. Just adjusting it up just here on one, I think it's this screw here, and just adjust it so you can't go past a certain point on the rear cassette, which probably would have been an option for me if I wanted to leave it as a 9-speed. I could have just used the 10-speed derailleur and the shifter, but to adjust it so it wouldn't go, you know, so far in. Another option there, but hey, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. So I'm going to have a good clean up, around here, clean all this up and everything, and we'll get the new cog on. Okay, and there's the new one on. Line him up. We're going to use thread lock on each one of these bolts again, just to make sure they don't loosen off. Okay. I'm going to do that to all the bolts and I'll bring you back in. So that's all that assembled again. I didn't bother filming it, you know, it's just a reverse order. They're all tweaked up. What I've done then is I've put it onto the top gear and tested it onto first, largest cog, and it hasn't come off, it's working. And from there, what I've done is I've adjusted this screw here, which adjusts how far this comes away from me to make sure we've got good clearance there, so that this, when it's going across, isn't going to hit. Just clear about there. And then what I've done is I've gone on this screw here, and I've just gone down, so it's just touching the stop there, which will stop the chain from going any further this way. And now I'm going to take it down onto the smallest cog and do the same with the other screw as well, so it won't go any further this way and get jammed between the frame and the cog. Okay, so that seems to have solved it. The actual new front chainring compared to the old chainring, when I measured it, actually the actual dishing on it, the offset, doesn't seem to be a great deal different. But what's happened, because there's 2 teeth less and there's less area sort of across the top here, it's not throwing the chain off. Now if you look, even now, I mean, that's going right over to sort of this side like that. It's a hell of an angle across there. It's having to go across. And ideally, I would like this cog to be a lot further into here. Now, unfortunately, that's the greatest dish they do on this size cog. There's a limit to how much you can go in this way, because obviously you've got this in the way with the electric motor. But you do some cogs. I've got one on my other bike, and I should probably put that into this video in editing. And it's got a step at this point that steps the cogs down so that it can go round this bit here. So until someone comes and produces one of those, we're sort of stuck with this setup. And being as we very, very rarely use that gear, we probably won't even use it at all. You know, it's not going to really matter too much. But yeah, it's a case of waiting, I think, until they produce something a bit more dished, which will go a little bit more into here. It only needs to be sort of 5mm or so, and it'll make all the difference. I'll just quickly wind this back down and show you where the optimum point is on the rear cassette. So yeah, if you look, I've just dropped it down, and we're on 8th gear there. So the third smallest cog on there. So, and it really wants to be sort of 8/7 is the optimum point. Now in reality, I normally try to get them so that the chainring at the front sets the chain when it's in line with the centre of the cassette. So it's not ideal at all. That said, it does run and go through the smoothly and selects the gears. There's no crunching. I think you're always going to be, by nature of this thing, you know, if you're using the highest gears and lowest gears, you're always going to have a little bit of chain rattle, because obviously they're not in line with the front chain ring when they're at that point, and they're always going to work best, hopefully, if you've got lined up in the centre of the cassette. But I'm relatively happy with that. It's usable, you know, it's not going to be derailing, it's not going to be crunching away and clacking, so that should have that done. And of course, this new system is a lot smoother. And I think, like I said earlier, you know, if you haven't got the motor, you're not going to have this problem at all if you've got the standard, you know, bicycle, which can be converted to an e-bike. So this is the end of the video for you guys, but it's not the end of the morning for me. This bike's coming down, and my other downhill bike's going to be worked on. I've got a lot of work to do on that. There's head bearings to be changed for an upgrade. There's upgraded brakes up to 203mm brake disc being done, and the actual adapter plates on there. I'm doing the same conversion more or less on this, but minus the cassette. I'm going to go up to Shimano Deore 11-speed derailleur and shifter, so that's going on. And there's various other bits and bobs on that bike, so please hit that like and subscribe button, guys, if you want to see that video. That'll probably be out in about 2 or 3 weeks. So all that remains is thank you for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.